Hello everyone, back tuning in today's first video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days in today's first video. It's going to take us to around the 19th, I should say, of February. So the winds are in from the east and it's cold. We're bringing cold easterly winds across the country at the moment. There could be a little bit of snow in with those easterly winds as well. And we'll have a look at the snow potential with this Snow Watch tonight. You're going to do at around 7 o'clock this evening. So if you'd like to know the latest on what the snow potential snow risks are with this easy wind, then do check out Snow Watch this evening. Now, yesterday's video, it looked like it might bring up some very mild air from the south. So going from winter to spring next week. There's a little bit of uncertainty about that now. I think it will turn milder next week, but exactly how mild it gets, I think there's a question mark about that. And certainly in terms of the ECWF, it looks like things could stay almost quite cold throughout the course of next week. So another little twist in the tail coming through with today's model output. I'll show you the latest detail in a second. But before I get on with all of that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles all over the page. You have a browse, visit, click through the links. You're going to help us play the website. And thanks very much for doing that. Just starting off with the latest observations from xcweather.co.uk. You can find a link to XC Weather on the links page. So the cold easterlies are through the country. The far southwest a little bit less cold. So for example at Newquay we're at 5 degrees and going down to Caldrose we're at 7 degrees down in the southwestern tip of Cornwall. However, you don't have to go very far eastwards to find significantly colder temperatures. So Church Lawford stuck at just 2 degrees, Wittering at 2 degrees in the East Midlands, Coningsby Royal Air Force Base is at 2 degrees, and then going towards the east coast as well, Bridlington 3 degrees. I bet it feels pretty cold there with that onshore easterly winds. Findlingdales at 1 degree and Loftus at 2 degrees going up the east coast as well. Weybourne down in East Anglia at 2 degrees. Also coming to London, in the centre of London, London City Airport, just 3 degrees, and going down to Biggin Hill, just 1 degree there. London Gatwick at just 2 degrees also. So it really is a very cold day across the country with those easy winds. It's likely to be even colder tomorrow, so we'll be the peak of the cold weather, and I think many places could hover around freezing throughout much of the day tomorrow. Now, these cold temperatures are going to continue through the weekend and into the start of next week. And then later on next week, we might see something a little bit milder coming through. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts. We've got the ECWF here on the top, and the GFS, which I'll look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. These are mean flow charts next week to 10 days. This takes us to the 19th of February. So the ECWF has this ridge here across central parts of Europe. That's left over from the Scandinavian high sinking southwards into Central Europe. With the trough down to the west coast of Portugal, that's what's trying to bring the air up from the south and deliver significantly milder conditions next week. However, the complicated factor is this ridge through the central Atlantic and pushing up towards Greenland, because that is trying to bring colder air down from the north. So there's a little bit of a battle going on with the ECWF. And I'll show you the detailed charts in a moment. But actually, the ECWF is very close now to keeping things really quite cold through the course of next week. It's much more clear-cut with the GFS. That does turn things significantly milder through next week. We've got this big ridge here across many parts of Europe. Again, that is the Scandinavian high that's currently giving us those bitter easterly winds. It sinks southwards early next week, and with the trough in the Atlantic, we turn the winds into southwest like that, and yes, it does turn significantly milder still with the GFS through the course of next week. But we can't discount the ECWF as a possibility. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles next 2 weeks. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average. So well, significant cold average at the moment and staying that way into the weekend. Through the weekend as well next week, we get a rapid increase in temperature. So by 13th of February, which I think is Monday, it is turning significantly milder than average in terms of the upper air temperatures anyway. And then the temperatures staying above average really throughout the period if the model is right. Remember, this is under a ridge though, so although the upper air temperatures are going a little bit above average, it's not quite that clear cut. Even with the GFS on the surface, there could still be frost and fog, for example. But it looks a fairly clear-cut pattern anyway, going into towards the latter stage of the month, being that period just there. It does look really quite significantly above average with the upper air temperatures in terms of the GFS ensembles. Temperature anomalies for next week, going from the 9th through to the 17th of February, cold and average. That's because it's cold now, going to stay cold at least until Monday. And then, although the upper air temperatures are starting to lift up by Monday, it only gradually beginning to lift the surface temperatures up. So averaging things out over the next week is colder than average week. Notice France is starting to turn milder than average though, and if GFS is right, we'd expect these charts to start trending a little bit milder over the next few days. Precipitation anomalies coming out drier than average again across most parts of the UK and Europe also, so lots of dry weather to come. Much of North America is milder than average at the moment, not much cold doing there. There's a little bit up in the northeast. There's some snow going to be expected there over the next day or so, I think, but generally it's a milder than average week coming up for the United States, going from the 9th through the 17th of February, particularly so in the Midwest. So these are the generic charts then, and this is for GFS for Monday. Still with a cold easterly wind there on Monday. It will be a cold day. Tuesday and Wednesday begins to shift those winds in towards the south, so that is starting to drag up. I'd say less cold now. I don't think this is as mild now, even with the GFS, for the middle part of next week as yesterday's runs were. We might see temperatures up to 9 or 10 degrees with that, but I don't think we're talking about sort of the spring-like temperatures that the model was indicating yesterday. But still the suggestion with the GFS, and it does turn milder with those slack southerly winds coming through next week. Doesn't last all that long, and by the end of next week, look what's going on. We're beginning to get a bit of a ridge building to the north of the country again. So this is a change. It is a change on what GFS has been doing. And as we get through to towards day 10, interestingly, we are building a ridge back towards Scandinavia, trying to get wind back into the east once again. So this is very much a developing situation, I think, that's going on here. By day 10, which is sunny 19th of February, that ridge is starting to collapse down to the south, and after that we introduce a milder Atlantic flow. There it comes, coming in from the southwest. But with this period changing here around the end of next week, signs that we're trying to build ridging to the north and northeast of the country, get it back towards Scandinavia, possibly start to get winds in towards the east. I think we've got to be a little bit cautious about how far we go with the chance of milder weather coming through next week. Certainly for a day or two it does bring up some southerly winds, and they would be a little bit milder, but I'm not really all that convinced right now with next week's prognosis, to be honest. I think the models are still shifting around, trying to look for the pattern. A lot of uncertainty for next week. Eastern US looking like this. We've got the cold easterly wind still through the country on Monday. And then we go through into Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, the idea, of course, has been to take this ridge more towards the east of Europe and pull those winds up from the south. But now, for Wednesday, for example, Wednesday 15th of February, we're keeping that high pressure centred around the Low Country, around Holland and western parts of Germany. So we're never really pulling in milder air with that. If you have a look at where the milder air is, it's sort of out in this direction now, to the west of the UK, and under this ridge, which is sitting just to our east, actually I think that would still probably be quite cold, certainly in terms of frost, up to the middle part of next week. No real increase in the temperatures there, I wouldn't have thought. And then we go through towards the end of next week and we get a ridge building through the UK and trying to push up towards Greenland. And as we go through to day 10, this is how we finish up, which is Sunday 19th of February. And, well, we've got a bit of a ridge out to the northwest going up towards Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure is going underneath it. We have got a southerly tracking jet stream there as well. The jet stream's in that sort of position, and it looks like there's a lot of cold air up here waiting possibly to push southwards with a trough of low pressure. So that really is quite close to pulling in some quite bitter air from the north and the northeast. If you have a look at the upper air temperatures, you can see that the south is a little bit on the milder side of the upper air temperatures, although it's all under high pressure, so probably wouldn't particularly be realising those mild temperature potential. But up to the north, there's a lot of cold air lurking, and from that position, in terms of the Arctic setup, with high pressure through the northern Atlantic going up towards Greenland and low pressure underneath it, we could easily turn the winds into the north there and drop that cold air southwards. So it's all very, very interesting and uncertain in terms of what's happening next week. We can say we're starting next week on a cold note, probably turning it a little bit milder around the middle part of the week, but I think we have toned that down quite a lot from the spring-like temperatures that was being signalled yesterday. So a little bit milder for the middle part of next week. And then the second half of next week, really uncertain. I wouldn't be all that surprised, but it's not greatly indicated by the GFS ensembles, but I wouldn't be all that surprised, actually, if the second half of next week began to get a little bit colder again, possibly with a return of some easterly winds. So, obviously, we'll be keeping you updated on this ongoing scenario over the next few days at Gazweather, so keep checking back for all of the updates. But that's all for now. Later on today, we'll have Snow Watch, and that'll be with you this evening. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.